Here we go. Welcome to the Transform with Travel podcast, where we share stories of personal transformation and life lessons through our experiences of traveling and exploring the world. Travel is the ultimate accelerator for personal growth, and it can be the root catalyst for the pivots and plot twists we make in our lives. I'm your host, Kelly Tolliday, and it's my mission to inspire you to live life to its fullest, travel with an open mind and heart, and let the world show you a new perspective. I'm so grateful you're here with us today, so let's dive right in. Happy exploring. All right, here we go. Welcome to the podcast, Chris. I'm so happy to have you here. This is the Transform with Travel podcast, and we have Chris Astill Smith here. He is a ex-long distance marathon swimmer. We'll get a lot into that. I'm really excited to share about that story. You're a world traveler since a very young age and a serial entrepreneur, really. You've had your hands in so many different amazing businesses, and we'll definitely get a lot into that entrepreneurial mindset and the entrepreneurial spirit that lives within you. And you're also a father to a beautiful baby girl. And I'm just so excited to hear about all the different adventures that you have to share. The first adventure is really how we've met, how we've known each other, and that's through my husband, Sam. I'd love for you to share how you and Sam got connected and how, you and I have become friends throughout this journey.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks for having me. Yeah, happy to be here. Yeah, I mean, meeting Sam was a long time ago now. I think it was like 2010, or it could have been earlier, like maybe 2009. I can't really remember it was so long ago. But I seem to remember the story was that there was a friend in a local village to me. I grew up in the countryside in Wiltshire, southwest England. Not an awful lot goes on in a small village. And then a friend that was living close to me, Sam, just sort of rocked up on her doorstep one day.
Sounds like him.
Yeah, and he didn't actually even know her either. It was through a mutual friend. So she calls me up and she's like, there's this Australian guy, random guy at my house. Can you come with me? I was like, yeah, sure. So then I basically got to know Sam, met him, and then we kind of took him under our wing in the local, in our kind of local town and friendship group. And then we started going out on nights out and just became friends from there. And I think it was about sort of 6 months later, a friend and I traveled to Australia. And then, part of that leg of that journey, I think we spent a couple of weeks in Sydney. And Sam put us up at his house with his parents as well.
Yeah, he told me all about that, you guys having adventures through Sydney. And then you became really close with his friend Mel. And, you guys have met up through Europe together when Mel lived in France. And so it just seems like such an amazing combination of friend groups. And then me and you met in person. We met in person for the first time, I believe, in Bali, right? It was in 2018 when you and your fiance at the time were in Indonesia. I think that's when we first met, yeah.
Yeah, that's when we first met. Yeah, just randomly. I didn't know that you guys were there. And then I sort of saw something on Instagram about Sam being there. And I just messaged him and he's like, yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, we met up for drinks.
Yeah, we went out to Old Man's in Canggu and kind of went around that whole area. And it was really fun to be able to meet you too and then watch your, at the time, fiance, now wife's journey and having a baby. And it's just been really cool to see each other grow over the last few years, I guess way more than a few years for you and Sam. But I'd love to talk a little bit about your background, just, traveling as a kid and having the world kind of opened up to you as a kid, as a young adult, really taking a lot of leaps of faith of adventures. And that eventually lands you in a hospitality school in Switzerland. I'd love to hear that origin story for your passion for travel.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that just sort of came naturally. I was fortunate enough to do a lot of sort of traveling with my family, and my father, when I was younger, he used to travel a lot for work. And so, we'd go on sort of family holidays when he was working, sort of tie that in together, business and pleasure. And then, he started working and I started sort of helping him out on some of the work trips as well. So him and I would go away and it's kind of just sort of deciding what I wanted to do when I kind of got older. I enjoyed staying in 5-star hotels, and it was such a passion for mine. I don't know why, just like that sort of hospitable nature. I just really, really enjoyed it. So that's why I wanted to ultimately one day, my dream back then was to own my own sort of hotel, and that's why I went on to study hospitality management.
Amazing. And so you studied in Switzerland, correct?
That's right, yeah.
So obviously Switzerland's the number one hospitality programs in the world, but was there anything in particular about Switzerland as a country that drew you to it?
No, not really. It was literally that. That was the reason why we had heard that it was the best place to study it. And at the time, I didn't feel too comfortable going away at age 18 to go and live in another country. I was sort of saying, oh yeah, I just want to stay in the UK and go to unis where my close friends are, because I'm from the countryside in Wiltshire, where sort of you don't really do that too often, like just completely move away at the age of 18 to go and live in another country. And yeah, so it was because we knew that school was supposedly one of the best for studying that. And then it was like my parents that actually pushed me to go to that school. And then we went out over there to go and visit a couple of them in Switzerland. And yeah, I was pretty drawn on the one that I chose, which was La Roche in the end.
Yeah, which is like one of the top school in the world. So that's amazing. And we had just put 2 and 2 together just backstage right before we pressed record, that we actually were in Switzerland about 2 or 3 train stops away from each other in 2013. So you were studying in Lausanne, I think that's where La Roche is. And then I was studying at Swiss Hotel Management School in Lausanne. And we were at the same time, the same year, just a couple train stops away from each other studying hotel management. So I think that I love that connection.
That's weird. Yeah.
For me, Switzerland was just such a beautiful place. Like, it's very, very expensive, especially as a uni student. But I just love the nature aspect to it. I love the people. I love how clean it was. So it was a really good launching point for me, especially being able to travel through Europe and being from the US and not having really been to Europe before. So you said that you wanted to own your own hotel. And from just following your journey over the past few years, I've noticed that you've had your hand in the flourishing and thriving of so many businesses. So has the entrepreneurial spirit, has that idea of always wanting to own something of your own, has that been something that's been ingrained in you since you were little?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've always wanted to have my own businesses running, continually trying to just sort of figure that whole thing out. But yeah, sort of from a young age, selling firecrackers and sweets and things like that at school. And then even at uni, we were a family business at home. We're launching sort of a supplement line. And so I would take the trials of that over to Switzerland and sell all the protein powders at school to all my friends. Definitely always something I've had in me. And I think it won't ever change. I'll be sort of making businesses till the day I die, I think.
Yeah. And what about it? What about from ideation to execution to like constantly reinventing brands? Like, what about it do you love?
Just all of it, to be honest. I like the creativity a lot. Like I really enjoy sort of that coming up with an idea and then forming that into something tangible. Yeah, I really enjoy that side of things. Enjoy branding and just sort of growing something, I think, from scratch and just doing something every day that improves that and makes it grow.
Yeah, I really love that desire for building something out of nothing, or like you said, like building something into a purpose. And I think that's a really great transition really to talk about your journey in marathon swimming and swimming the English Channel, is that desire for something more and really putting a purpose and a meaning to what you're doing. Can you dive into a little bit into like what sparked that in you to decide, okay, I'm going to swim the English Channel, and what the cause that you did it for, and just all the whole journey? It's such a mission. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that adventure you went on.
Yeah, sure. So it was around sort of 2016. I've always been quite into my sort of health and fitness. I used to swim a lot when I was younger. That was sort of my sport. I used to swim, play rugby, and those were my kind of 2 sports that I played or did. Yeah, finished uni in 2014. And after that was just really sort of into the gym. And then, doing that for a few years. And I just kind of got a bit bored of it, to be honest. I didn't really feel that there was that sort of end goal to work towards. So I wanted to give myself a challenge to do something bigger, really. And then the thing that really kind of sparked it on for me was when 2016, I went traveling to Peru and hiked the Inca Trail. So that's a sort of 4-day, I think it's 40-something kilometer trek. And just that feeling of like doing something bigger and then having that starting point and finishing point, something inside of me felt really good. And then I did another one hike. There's only a small sort of climb in the UK, in Wales, Snowdonia. So it's not that big. But I did that with some friends and just came off of that. And I was with a friend in the car and we were talking about challenges and things like that. And then I said, I reckon it might be possible to swim the channel. And then it was just sort of a joke conversation at the start. And he was like, well, why don't you do it? And then he started looking up on his phone what you need to do, all the requirements that are needed. And then it was a long journey back. I think it was like 6 hours. So that whole time, he had basically almost convinced me to do it by the time we got back. And then I got home and I told my family, I think I'm going to try and attempt the channel. And then, I got the support from my family, which was really nice. And then after that, it was about sort of finding a coach, working towards it, and just crossing all of those hurdles along the way. As to like, how do you even swim the channel? Do you need a support boat? Who do you take on the boat? What do you eat? What do you drink? Can you wear a wetsuit? No. There's all these different kind of questions, and you just have to take it day by day, really, step by step. So started doing a lot of kind of personal research, and then found a coach within the next couple of weeks, I think. And then I met with him, and he went through quite a lot of my questions, and I was pretty convinced that I was going to attempt it. That was in around April 2016. I met my coach, and then we had basically confirmed a tentative date by August 2017.
Okay, cool. And so walk me through that training, because you've been a swimmer before. You know what that's like. It's super intense. I was a competitive swimmer for 12 years. I know what that's like. It's morning practices, afternoon practices, dry land training. It's constant. But I'm also training in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So it's a little bit different to training in indoor pools or you're training, I'm assuming, outside a lot to train for the channel. What was that like for you to like now get your head back into gear for like full-blown athletic competition training?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I say I used to swim, that was when I was a lot younger. So probably from 10 years old till 16, 17. And I hadn't really kind of done too much swimming training after that. And so at this point, I'm age 24. And then, I got back in the pool and I swam 2 kilometers, which is about 80 lengths of a 25-meter pool. By the end of it, I was completely dead. And I was like, how am I going to swim 35 kilometers across the English Channel if I can't even do 2 kilometers right now? Yeah. So I did that. And then it's all about just kind of setting those small goals. Then it's like, okay, well, next time I go in, how many am I going to do? And then again, and then just keep progressing and keep training. And then as the weeks go by, you start to get faster, you start to swim further. And then I started meeting up with my coach more regularly, and he had a swim training squad that specialized in marathon swimming. So all the guys that were in that team had a goal of some sort of open water swim, really. Many of them on the team had done the channel before. They had done loads of other long distance ocean swimming. So it was a great group of people to immerse myself with. Shout out Red Top Swim in East London. It was a great group to immerse myself with while I was training. Made some really, really good friends, actually, some friends that I'm still so close with today. Yeah, and then we used to go down to Dover a lot, which is the port where all the ferries take off to go to France. So we used to go down there into Dover Harbour frequently in the summer of 2016 to get our bodies used to the cold water. And then we used to do a lot of indoor pool training, but that would involve a lot of kind of sprint work, and the sea stuff was more the long distance kind of training. So we'd swim sometimes 2 hours, 3 hours there. And then I decided to do Lake Windermere in 2016, which is a 18-kilometer lake in the Lake District. And so that's half the distance of the English Channel. So I thought, right, if I can do half the distance in, a year out of the channel, then I'll feel confident that I can do the full distance in 2017. And so I attempted that, and it was honestly one of the most painful experiences of my life. I really wasn't ready to attempt something like that long. My coach wasn't with me. I just had a couple of friends in a kayak or sort of like rowing boat alongside me, and they obviously weren't kind of trained to know when I should stop swimming. I actually encountered a lot of issues along the way. The food that I was eating wasn't being digested properly, so that meant I wasn't being hydrated. My body was really kind of burning muscle, and because it didn't have any sugar or carbohydrates to burn at this point, because nothing was going down, my body wasn't able to actually rehydrate myself with the electrolytes that I was drinking along the way. And when I actually finally made it, I threw everything up.
Oh my God.
I didn't think I was going to make it, to be honest. About 10 kilometers in, my shoulder started playing up, and then it started to get worse every kilometer. And so I felt like sort of quitting because it was so painful. But I knew in my mind that if I can't do half this length, then I won't be able to do the full length next year. It's going to really throw me off mentally. So I pushed through it. And actually, that was probably the worst thing to do, to be honest, because I made it way worse, and I actually like tore one of my bicep tendons. So that disrupted all of my training for the next year. I had to completely learn a new style of stroke that would enable me to not to get so much shoulder pressure and shoulder pain. You know, I had to go through rehab. I had to go and meet with a specific acupuncture specialist who was able to really get into those regions to make the muscles easier to train so that it wouldn't flare up or wouldn't get inflamed. So yeah, it was a really, really bad decision. But looking back on it, you know, everything happens for a reason. And if that hadn't have happened, maybe that issue would have come up during the channel, and then I wouldn't really be able to overcome it because my stroke technique would be completely wrong. So yeah, I went through that whole period of training throughout the year, and then just getting progressively harder and harder. So around sort of January time, I think I was doing 30 kilometers a week. By March, I was doing sort of 40 or 50 kilometers a week of training. By June, July, I think the maximum I got up to was about 100 kilometers one week. Yeah, so it just kind of got progressively harder and harder as it got on. I had to gain 10 kilos of fat as well, because when you actually do the channel, you're not allowed to wear a wetsuit. So that was one of the things that we found out to have the whole thing properly ratified. You can't wear a wetsuit.
Right. It's like for buoyancy, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it helps with insulation and buoyancy. So it kind of, to make it a level playing field, they just say no wetsuit. For men, you're only allowed a pair of Speedos, a hat, and goggles, and that's it.
Oh my God. Wow. For a Florida girl, I can't even imagine, because I'm like cold in 80-degree water. So I can't even imagine being immersed in the far North Atlantic waters like that. And just being so cold and just swimming, like, it's just, I can't even imagine. So you had to put on 10 kilos of fat just to be able to sustain yourself through this challenge.
For the insulation, yeah. So the fat was there really for the insulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to qualify to do the swim as well. So that means you have to do a 6-hour swim in less than 15-degree Celsius.
Wow.
So I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. Wow. But yeah, so you had to do that for 6 hours. That was actually also really difficult, because then it's a real mental game of battling the cold. So you have to train your mind to start thinking of warm things. You know, you're thinking about sitting close to the fire or holding a hot cup of coffee. All of these small little things you have to train in your mind and tell yourself, oh, I'm really warm. I'm really warm right now. But in actual fact, you're super cold, and your body's, you have to keep moving a lot. So during the swimming training in the water, you can't really rest. Well, first of all, that's against the rules of the Channel Swimming sort of association, is you can't rest, you can't touch the boat, you have to tread water. But secondly, if you actually do take time to tread water for a few minutes, have a chat to people on the boat, then you're going to get cold, because your body's not moving. So you're going to then, you know, the risk of hypothermia is going to go up. So you have to really just keep moving all the time to keep the body generating the heat. Of course, the more fat you have, the more time that you can sort of spend in the water having a laugh. Some people that do hold more body fat, I think they can probably get away with that. I wasn't super skinny, but I didn't have loads of body fat on me. But yeah, I just kept going.
That's incredible. So before we get to like the actual challenge itself and that day, you talk a lot about the physical training that you did, and then you just touched on a little bit of that mindset training that you had to kind of move through, right? On top of the physical training, did you have any mindset coaching or therapy or any sort of coach besides the physical aspect of it that was kind of helping you through these like mindset hurdles that you really have to get through? It's way more of a, at the end of the day, like, your body does what it does and you have to physically prepare, but it's that the last 20%, that last 10% is truly mind over matter.
Yeah, so I think you just sort of train your mind. That comes with all of the long distance training, all of that immersion in the cold water, cold showers every day. So you're sort of training your body to do things that are super uncomfortable. And then just, doing longer and longer distances. Because I just thought, why not? I had a couple of sessions with a hypnotherapist.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I think I did 3 sessions. I don't know if it made a difference, but I just thought at this point, kind of, anything will help, because it's going to be such a mental battle swimming for, 12 to 13 hours, that I just thought anything that can help me with my mindset is going to help. So I did do that.
Yeah. And so previously you talked about this desire for something more and setting yourself a challenge. And it kind of seems like a common theme with everything that you do: the challenge of starting a business, the challenge of doing these hikes, the challenge of the English Channel. I know you did, and I want you to be able to share it yourself, but what was the cause that you kind of like attached to this channel? And I know you did a lot of fundraising and a lot of social sharing around this cause. I'd love for you to share what was your why beyond setting yourself a personal challenge for this.
Yeah, so of course I did want to attach it to something bigger and something more meaningful. I don't know why, but I've always had this kind of emotional attached, something that really kind of, hits home to me is children, working with children who, are less fortunate. So I wanted to work with a charity that helped children with life-limiting conditions achieve their dreams. So the charity I chose is similar to Make-A-Wish Foundation, but it's a lot smaller kind of business. It's a real small UK local charity that helps kids with life-limiting conditions achieve their dreams from the young age up to age 21. And I also wanted to feel part of it as well. So I met with them and I wanted to know what children are directly benefiting from my fundraising efforts. That was a real part of it along the way, was the fact that I got really close with them and they told me all of the children that had been directly helped and what sort of activities and dreams they had to go and watch. And it can be as small as going to watch an Arsenal game or going on a trip to Disneyland or becoming a mermaid for the day, things like that. And so they shared all those stories with me of all the children that had directly benefited from the money that I had helped raise. So that was really nice as well, to rather than just raise the money and just throw it into a big charity and sort of not see it again. I joined them for lots of events as well with lots of the children. So yeah, it was super fun and super, kind of warming.
Yeah, rewarding for sure.
Yeah, very rewarding. And I'm so glad that I picked that charity.
And what was the name of that charity?
Sorry, the name was called Dreams Come True.
Okay, I'm going to link it in the show notes at the end so people can go and check it out as well. And you did a specific publicity stunt for this charity and to raise money for the challenge that you were doing. I'd love for you to share a little bit about this awesome, almost like a little bit of a prank. Like, it was pretty funny. And I share it with everyone that I see. I'm like, I know this guy that did this really cool thing. And so I'd love for you to, one, tell us what you did. And then two, how'd you come up with this idea? And also, how'd you get away with it? How did you pull it off?
Yeah, sure. So when I kind of set myself the goal of how much I wanted to raise for the charity, I initially said £20,000. And then I was like, no, you know what? 25,000, let's try and raise £25,000. And, that's a lot of money to be able to just kind of ask your friends and people that for to raise that much. Like, most people probably would raise maybe maximum a few £1,000s. And so I knew that we had to do something bigger to get in more awareness to really get the additional fundraising that we wanted to hit that goal. And I came up with this idea with a friend of mine. So a friend of mine who was actually working with our company at the time. He was very good at like videography and video editing. And so came up with the idea with him about stealing a London Boris Bike. For your listeners that might not know what that is, it's similar to the New York City bikes, but they're super iconic in London. So if you've ever been to London, you've definitely seen them. These red bikes, Santander is the bank, but they sponsor it. So they're Santander bikes, but everyone knows them as Boris bikes because Boris Johnson, who was the mayor of London at the time and implemented this whole scheme. And so, they're super, super famous in London. So what we decided was, are we able to take something and take it around the world to different areas, something that hasn't really gone there or been there. Nobody's seen it in other areas of the world. It's super iconic to London, but would somebody recognize that in Dubai, or would someone recognize that in San Francisco? So we came up with this plan and we put a bit of a budget down together of taking the Boris bike, basically stealing it and taking it all around the world and making a viral video of it. The last clip will be me down in Dover, cycling along the cliffs in Dover and sort of explaining the purpose of the video, and for anybody that's seen it and wants to donate to the charity, then to put the link in the bio. The story was me and Alex, my friend, we took this Boris bike all around the world. I think we went to 7 cities in the end, but it sort of looked that it went kind of everywhere. The story is quite a long one, but we dismantled the bike. They actually have like tamper evident locks and bolts and things. So my brother had to like make specific tools using his mill that could unlock the specific like, tamper evident. So we did that, and then we found this bike box that was big enough to take this bike, because it's also huge and they weigh like 20 kilos.
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, they're not light either. And so we found a way to dismantle it, and then we put it in this massive bike box and we just put it in the oversized luggage in Heathrow. And so the first stop was New York, and then we made it to New York. And funny enough as well, we were so scared that we were going to get caught with a Boris bike, because in the UK, people know what it is, but nowhere else they would know what it is. So our biggest fear was like leaving London with this Boris bike. So we ordered this like spray paint stuff, which was almost like this glue that you could like peel off. So it was this pink spray paint glue stuff. So we sprayed that all over the bike. So we were like, we'll spray it, so disguise it, and then when we land in New York, we can just like peel it off, and then we're all good to go. So we did that. We spray painted this whole bike pink, and then landed in New York and spent hours peeling this stuff off.
Oh my God. This is so much more elaborate than the original story that I knew. So this is so good to hear this side of the story. The effort it took is incredible.
Yeah, it was a lot of thought went into it. And then we got to New York, and then we got all the shots. It was super good as well, because everywhere we went, either Alex had a friend or I had a friend that we could stay with. So we weren't sort of staying in hotels and things. We was keeping the budget low and staying with friends. And and then went to New York, got all the shots of the Brooklyn Bridge, Times Square, Central Park, and then went on to Las Vegas was next, and stayed with a friend there. Got video clips of going down the strip, meeting Elvis. Then we ended up in San Francisco, got some shots. This one, we did actually stay in a motel for this one. And when we arrived, there was this typhoon or this hurricane or something that was happening, and we couldn't get any shots of anything. So we were only there for 2 or 3 days. We were gutted because when we arrived, it was just raining all day. It was a massive storm, and you couldn't get any shots of anything. It wouldn't look good on camera at all. So we were like, it's this complete waste of a leg of the journey. And then on the day that we were supposed to leave, I think our flight was at like 1 p.m. But then it cleared up around sort of 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. So we got up really early on the day that we were supposed to leave. We spent like 2 days in a motel, just going to a coffee shop every day because there was nothing else to do. Yeah, and then we woke up at 6 a.m. and went and got the shot of the Golden Gate Bridge, the one that we were really after. And we got it, and super crystal clear day, blue skies, and got the shot, and then got on the plane was a stopover in London, and then we were off to Paris. And then we stayed with Mel, Sam's friend, in Paris. I got all the way over there, got the shots of the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, and then went to Rome, got shots with the Colosseum down there, and then off to Dubai, the Burj Khalifa, the Burj Al Arab. And then the craziest leg of the journey was when we went to Delhi in India.
Oh, yes. This is my favorite one. I love this clip.
Yeah, so that is our favorite. It's definitely the best part of the trip, because it's like neither of Alex or I had been to India before. We didn't know what to expect. We took this bike to the streets of Delhi. We went to the Taj Mahal because we really wanted a clip with the bike at the Taj. But when we got there was like really high level security. You couldn't get in. I don't even know if they were letting people in with cameras. Like you had to go through the body scans. There was no way they were letting us in with this big, massive bike. And so we went in, we saw the Taj because we were there. And then when we were out the back of the Taj, I saw over this river, I saw a sort of a patch of land. And I was like, if we can get there, I reckon we can get a good shot of the Taj Mahal in the background. And so I said to our taxi driver, can you take us there? And he was like, yeah. And so he took us all the way around the back. It was probably like 45-minute drive to get there. And we got there, and it was also guarded, but not in the same level of high security. A couple of guys there guarding the gates of this sort of plot of land. Yeah. And we just said to them, can we go in quickly to get a shot? And they were like, no drones. And we were like, please, can we go in to just get a shot on a normal camera then? And he was like, how much? And basically, we bribed them. And I think it was the equivalent of like £5 or $10 or something really low. And then they let us in for like 10 minutes, and we got the shot that we needed. Got back, and that was it. And we did it all in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Oh my gosh, Jesus. Your body would have no idea what time zone you were in by that stage.
Yeah, exactly. And then we put it all together. It took us a while to kind of put it all together. And then we just put it on YouTube, and then just started trying to get it some attention by reaching out to local tabloids and news outlets.
So what was your fine when you finally brought it back? Surely it was overdue. Your couple-hour leisurely stroll.
Yeah, exactly. I looked into the sort of terms and conditions when I did it, and they have like a flat rule: if the bike is lost or stolen, then they charge you £300.
Oh, okay.
So I knew like the maximum I'm going to lose is £300, and so I was like, I took the hit, sunk cost, and then it was funny when actually the sort of tabloids and stuff picked up the art. It took a while. It took a couple of days. We were like messaging loads of editors, and nobody was really pushing it. And then it took one, I think it was the Evening Standard, which is like a free kind of newspaper that goes all across London Underground. They got in touch and they were like, yeah, actually, this is a really cool story. We want to share it. And after they shared it, then it was like a snowball. Like all of the other places started sharing it. The Daily Mail, other things like the Lad Bible, Unilad, things like that. Yeah, at the Metro. So all these other kind of Lonely Planet, people like that started picking up, Business Insider. Yeah, and then the funny thing was, what I was remembering was that, because you were talking about the fine of the £300. It's funny because the Daily Mail posted this, I remember they posted this article. It wasn't like any opportunity to like slam a big bank.
Yeah, of course.
They were like, rather than guy steals bike and goes around the world, it was charity man comes back from bike ride and is slammed with a £300 fine upon his return in Heathrow.
Yeah, right. So kind of
it's just funny how the media really, how they twist things. It's just, they completely twist things. Yeah. But it was pretty funny.
The bike, did they turn around and say, all right, fine, for a good cause, we'll let you get away with it?
That was part of our intention, was that the bank was going to get so much publicity from this, and the type of publicity that money can't buy. You know, banks as people.
Yeah, it's such a human story. It's a human story that banks have a really hard time spinning. So.
Yeah, nobody really trusts banks. So the fact that they got all of that publicity for free, I mean, loads of people even commenting on the video saying, oh yeah, businesses are getting more creative with their marketing efforts. They thought it was all paid for by the bank. Oh gosh. Yeah, they basically got so much free publicity for it. And so we thought, oh, well, they might donate to the swim or something, like a big chunk of the 25,000. In the end, they just gave me £500. Obviously, I had 300 for the fine, and then they donated 500 to the charity, which was still grateful for it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a bank. Come on.
I mean, they're a bank. Yeah, come on.
They had a really great opportunity there to make the story even bigger. So
they could have capitalized on it massively, but they didn't. Yeah.
So, okay. Well, first of all, I think that's like one of the best adventures I've ever heard. I can't even believe that was done in 2 weeks. I mean, all those places that you went to. So you get back from this big adventure, you're continuing to fundraise, you're continuing to train. The day of the swim arrives. So tell me a little bit about that. If I remember correctly, you have to have a really good sense of the weather and the currents and the conditions. Tell me a little bit about you leading up to that day and then the swim itself. And then we can talk a little bit about life post-swim. Yeah.
It's a 2-week window, really. There's 4 people in this kind of heat. So when you book your slot, you might be, number one. If you're really early and you book the slot very early in advance, you might be number one in that heat. So that means during that 2-week window, the first person in the heat will go when the conditions say that it's safe to go. So I was number 3 initially in the heat, and then over getting closer, I think one of the people dropped out. So I moved to number 2, which was really lucky. And then number 1 had gone, I can't remember what date it was, I think on the 12th or the 13th of August. And so then I was up next. So it's a 2-week window, but actually it's only really 1 week of a spring tide, I think. It's either 1 week or 2 weeks of the neap tide. Sorry, the neap tide is the weaker tide, and then the spring tide is the stronger tide. So yes, it's a 2-week window of a neap tide. I was number 2, so I was ready to go. They gave me the call on 13th of August, about 9 a.m. in the morning, saying you're going tonight. Likely you're probably going to go really early in the morning, so 2 a.m. on the 14th. So had to prepare myself, mentally. I had told the charity that I was, going tonight. They had planned to come down and see me off in Dover. I told my family, they all came down. My friends, loads of people came down. So we were ready to set off at about 2 a.m. Mentally preparing myself all day. Felt so ready for it. Was super hyped. We were on the boat, getting greased up with the Vaseline and the sun cream. Everyone that came to see me were down on the beach. And then this is a crazy part of the story, but as we're just about to pull in onto the beach, so you kind of got to pull in about 100 meters from the shore, and then you're supposed to swim to shore and then clear the water and start in England and then go. So as we're getting closer, we hear this noise. The boat makes a noise and we didn't really know what it was. And my coach said that, oh, be careful when you're jumping in off the boat because, we may have just hit some rocks. And then I'm waiting to go. I've got the goggles on, the Speedos are on, sun cream, everything's up there, ready to go. Super hyped. I'm on Facebook Live talking to everyone about, how excited I am and thanks for joining. And then after sort of 5 minutes, we weren't going anywhere and I was starting to worry what's going on. And then we found out that actually the complete kind of freak accident, the prop shaft of the engine had sheared off of the engine.
Oh my gosh.
And this is like unseen in like channel swimming history. Like nobody has ever seen this happen, like a boat actually kind of break down. So super rare. The conditions were supposed to be perfect as well. When we were out there, it was super warm. The water temperature was warm. The water was flat. Everything was ready to go. I had done all my carb loading. I'd done tapering off all of my training for a week. So I was so ready and energized and ready to go. And then they basically told me, no, you're not swimming tonight. And so I'm like, what?
Oh, wow.
It's like a dream. You can't even imagine that you're not going to swim tonight. You prepared for 18 months for this, and then you're told, oh, you're not swimming tonight. And so I said, oh, when am I swimming? And they're saying, well, you're not booked on any other boats, so that you have to wait for this boat to get repaired.
Oh my God.
And if it goes over the 2-week window, then the slots open up to the other people again who are booked on another window. So the next kind of 10 days were a real whirlwind for me. I didn't know when I was going. My coach didn't know when I was going. He didn't really kind of know what to advise me to do either, because nobody had been through this before. And then this was a real mental battle. This was really, really tough. It was probably the hardest part of everything, was these 10 days of, and then I started to get worried. Am I not training enough? Am I training too little? What if my shoulder starts to flare up again? And then I start to get real worried and just felt completely not ready for it at all. Like my mental state had been thrown off like completely. So yeah, and then I'm calling up every day. Is there any news on the boat? Is there any news on the boat? And then they're like, no. And then it gets real close to the end of the window. And then at this point, the tide is just turning from the neap tide to the spring tide. So which is like basically a stronger tide. My coach phones me up and he says, look, the boat's ready now. You can go, but it will be on a spring tide, which is a stronger tide. But he said, I think you're quick enough to swim it on a spring tide. Do you want to go for it? And I said, if I don't go for it now, then, the only other option is to potentially go next year, isn't it? And he's like, yeah. And I said, I cannot train myself mentally for another whole year for this. I have to go now. And so I was like, okay, let's do it. And this was on the 24th of August. He phoned me up and said that. And so it was the same again. We were going to leave at around sort of 1 or 2 a.m. on the 25th. So that night, and I told my friends, everyone, I'm going, but of course, this time everyone's got other plans. They hadn't kind of accounted for this. Nobody really came down to see me off. It wasn't the same sort of hype. I was very, very nervous on the boat. I wasn't confident at all. I was shaking. And then, got in the water. I think it was like 1:45, and then swam over to France, and then off I went. And and then I was swimming for 4 hours in the darkness. And that was the hardest part really of the swim, was swimming at nighttime. I hadn't done too much of the night swimming training. Got stung in the face by the jellyfish when it was dark, and it was also a bit choppy, so I couldn't really find my rhythm. So I was worried, that I was going to overcompensate. My shoulders were going to flare up again after a while. And then after about 4 hours, the sun comes up at around sort of 6 a.m., 5 or 6 a.m. And it was like the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen. And the water just went like a mill pond. It was just completely flat. My shoulders were fine. Everything was good. I saw my friends on the boat. People were waking up as well. So they were messaging on Facebook, and they were writing messages on a whiteboard and hanging it off the side of the boat to me so I could read the messages. And at that point, I knew like, right, I'm going to get this done. Like there's nothing going to stop me. So that point was really the turning point for me, knowing that I'm going to complete it. And so, after 11 hours and 43 minutes, I landed on a rock in France.
11 hours. Oh my God. So I remember watching you. It was like on Facebook Live. And I remember Sam the whole time. He's like, he's got it. He's got it. Like you were just like, we were watching. And I mean, I just got chills as you told this story, because it really seems like such the epitome of like dark soul of the night. You started off in the dark and the jellyfish in the face, and it was choppy. And then you just found your rhythm and you went for it. And I literally have chills right now. I just think it's such an incredible story, and you had such a purpose behind it. There
was one last thing I forgot to mention, and actually this may also bring you chills, because it brings me chills every time I remember it. But that night that it didn't happen, that the boat broke, the forecast and everything was absolutely perfect. But then when we're on the boat and we're waiting to get collected for a few hours, because at this time it's 2 a.m. and I don't think we actually got collected from the boat until 6 a.m. or 5 or 6 a.m. So we were on the boat for a few hours, and then out of nowhere, this unexpected storm came over, like completely unplanned.
Oh, wow.
and then it started raining like crazy, and you could see lightning and thunder going all across the channel, like lighting up the entire channel. And it was a complete, like, I would have not liked to swim on that day anyway. So actually it was so weird, because it was almost like something was looking out for me. A higher power was really looking out for me that day to say, no, you're not swimming today. It's not your day.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, that's the really crazy part.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so you land in France, and I'm only assuming like there's probably so many emotions going through you on top of trying to figure out gravity again, like figure out your body on land. Can you talk a little bit about what that felt like to land in France and realize that you've done it, and then talk a little bit about the life post-challenge, like life without having this like insane bigger purpose in your life every single day, like what that was like for you as an athlete, and yeah, what that was like?
Sure. Like landing on France is actually really just kind of surreal. It was almost like a dream state. I climbed aboard the rock, because you're also on a cliffside. There's nobody there on like watching, saying, oh, well done, from the sidelines. It's like you clear the water, and then you just sort of have a little kind of cheer to yourself and say, yeah, I did it. And then it's like, kind of, what do I do now? And then my coach is like, right, you done? Like, let's get back on the boat. I was only up there for about 45 seconds, I think, in France. And then I got back in the water and, got on the rib and went back to the boat to head back to England. So it was weird. I still remember it clearly, though. It's still ingrained in my memory. But yeah, I didn't really do too much. And it hadn't really kind of sunk in that I had done it. And then, so completed it in 11 hours, 43 minutes. And then, and then life after the channel. I mean, everyone, I had many people sort of saying, what's the challenge that you have next? What's the next challenge you have after this? You have to prepare, something else ahead, because when you reach it, you might feel very lost without it. And I was just thinking in my head, that's not going to be me. I just want to get this swim done, and just, that's it. That was my challenge. I wanted to do it, complete it. And that was it. I couldn't imagine like planning anything else. That was it for me. And then I had a few months of, my goal was really just to lose the weight that I had gained. So my housemate was a PT, and he helped me like get back on track and lose the weight quite quickly, actually, within kind of 2 or 3 months. Yeah. And then after that, things got really weird, because I had this complete loss of direction, complete lack of purpose. It was so strange to kind of imagine. I didn't feel fulfilled in what I was doing at the time, and just felt so lost. Yeah, really down, and then started to get quite depressed, to be honest. So that was quite like kind of a low part of my life, and it lasted probably like 9 months. So yeah, and then I got a job offer after that 9 months, actually, for the university in Switzerland that I used to go to. And it was a role that I really got excited about. It was about sort of recruiting new students and helping recruit new students to study there and experience, they may have experienced the amazing things that I did. So I got really excited about that role, and I took that on. And then after that, I slowly started to feel a lot better about myself, and it gave me that kind of purpose again, sort of to wake up in the morning. And then, I did that for a couple of years, 2.5 years, I think. And then, I got another job offer back in the supplement space funny enough, with Alex, who's the friend that I did the Boris Bike trip with.
Fun.
So it's come full circle completely. And he and his partner, well, she's Pilates instructor, but then she started doing YouTube fitness classes on YouTube. And she'd been doing it for a few years, and then COVID hit. Her channel just skyrocketed from 30,000 subscribers to 1 million, and 2 million, 3 million. So yeah, she got quite well known on YouTube. Actually became the UK's largest fitness YouTuber.
Oh, wow.
And Alex and her then decided, right, we want to, we've got a massive audience now that follow Lily. We want to create a supplement brand off of that. And then I had background in supplements, and he said, do you want to come in and manage that side of the business? And then I was like, yeah, absolutely. I couldn't think of anything more exciting than basically just to come up with products and set them up from idea to creation. Yeah. So that's what I do, and that's what I do now as well.
Yeah. And so it really sounds like to me, like for you, it's like a story of the importance of purpose, whether it's through work, whether it's through a challenge, your physical wellness, with family, now that you have a child, like purpose to you just seems to be such like your North Star, your compass that like helps you move through life's challenges. Is like you can overcome anything. Literally one of the hardest challenges out there, swimming the English Channel. You can overcome anything if you have that purpose in mind and driving you, to a bigger meaning.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, exactly. That's what I've really come to learn, is having that purpose in anything, really. And I think at the moment it's very much to do with, my work, and also I have another business running on the side, and being a new dad,
Yeah.
to be honest. That's really the biggest one. That is my purpose now. And I feel like that's probably the purpose that many people have when they have children. They'll get this second life. And that's what I was explaining to my wife the other day, was I feel that chapter in your life is a brand new life. Being a dad is something completely different than before. You're now looking after and responsible for somebody else. So everything becomes a lot more kind of, I guess, like serious, because you have that responsibility, but at the same time, a lot more meaningful.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a beautiful way to look at it. You mentioned a side business that you're working on. Can you explain what new and exciting business does Chris Astill Smith have up his sleeve?
Yeah, sure. So this is actually a business I opened with a friend of mine, Ed. It's a hangover prevention type supplement. The ingredients inside of this product I used to take on nights out with me with my friends, and I'd not wake up with a hangover the next day. All the ingredients inside of it that I would take, there's studies to show that you don't wake up feeling rough the next day. So I started taking all these supplements on nights out with me, giving it around, passing it around the friend group, and everyone was always saying, "Oh, you've got the supplements, Chris, like give them to me." So I'd take them out and everyone would take them. And then a friend of mine, Ed, said, "Why don't we actually kind of formulate a supplement from all of these other ingredients and market it, to help make you feel better the next day, to give you more energy, to not make you feel so bad." And so, then we started this new business. It's called Hankia. It is going really well. We're starting to learn and master the TikTok kind of algorithm. And so it's super fun learning all of that stuff as well. And, lots of things there I've applied to my work with what I do for a full-time job as well. So just continually learning, and I feel a whole sort of sense of fulfillment now.
Yeah, it seems like the health and wellness has just been such a core pillar in your life through the supplements, through all the health challenges and athletic challenges that you've done. So the name of the business is Hankia, and I'll make sure to link that in the show notes for everyone listening.
Yeah, we're not in the US. We're not in the US.
Well, they can
yet,
still
though,
follow you, and when you're ready to launch in the US, we'll be ready to go, waiting for you. I know Sam will be your number one customer as soon as you launch here. So, Chris, thank you so much for sharing your story. I am so excited for everyone to hear. I got chills listening to your story, and just all of the amazing parallels throughout your entire life. Well, I am so excited to continue to see your adventures, to see all the exciting adventures and challenges and all the things that you're going to rise up to, and especially going on the journey with your young daughter and your beautiful wife. And hopefully we'll be able to connect in person soon somewhere around the world. So I always end these episodes with quick rapid fire questions, and they're just based around traveling. So we'll just see what pops up for you. So number one is, if you could only go back to one country, place, or town in the world, just one place for the rest of your life, where would it be and why?
That is a good question. I really like Switzerland. I think the memories I had there were just kind of unforgettable, and they really shaped who I became, and the friends that I met there really helped shape me sort of going in after uni, going into the real world. But I know if I went back, it wouldn't be the same, because they wouldn't be there. Although the scenery and everything would be, there, and the fresh air and the mountains, which I think is what I love the most about Switzerland, they wouldn't be there. So I think the thing I would say is it's probably where I have the closest friends, to be honest with you. But as long as it's not in a big city. Yeah. I'm not really too fond of big cities anymore.
Yeah.
Not now I'm a father.
Oh, I'm the same. I'm not a big city girl. I remember Sam telling me a story once when he visited you in Switzerland, and he rode his bike home from I guess you guys had bikes from wherever pub you were at down to where your dorm or wherever you were staying. And he rode his bike back in the middle of the snow because he wanted to FaceTime me, but then he didn't have his key, or someone wasn't with him to open up the door. So he was just sitting outside in the snow for like a couple hours waiting for someone to let him back into where he was staying. I don't even know if you knew that story, but I remember him FaceTiming me in the snow being like, it's just so cold out here.
Oh, I can't remember that story. I think it may have been a scooter.
Yeah,
or
it was something, a bike, a scooter or something. Yeah, it was funny.
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Lots of crazy
Number
stories.
2 is what's number 1 on your bucket list right now?
What? Somewhere to go and see?
Somewhere to go and see, a business or whatever, family, whatever it is, number 1 on your bucket list.
Where we really want to go as a family and travel and visit one day is Japan. Yeah, we've never been there. It's somewhere that's always kind of excited us, but we'll wait till our daughter's a bit older, can experience that, herself.
I love that. I haven't been to Japan either, so it's definitely on the list. Okay, so number 3 is what's the biggest life lesson you've learned while traveling?
Don't be afraid to just meet new people. I think, because you don't know where those people are going to end up and how they're going to be a part of your life. And that's going back to that story of Alex, who I worked with. He's how I actually found out or got in touch with Alex was a friend of mine, Max, is a guy I went to uni with. So it's his brother. So it's all kind of, everything's connected throughout life. And, if you don't go out there and meet new people and become friends with, new people, then your life may be a little more closed than open. Yeah,
or like your friend calling you saying, hey, there's this Australian guy at my doorstep. I need someone here. And then you go and live with his family for a month or 2. So, yeah. Exactly.
Another crazy, full circle story. And here we are now chatting on a podcast. And there I was traveling around on a Boris bike and staying with his friend, Mel, in Paris. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and we were good friends when he was in London. So, yeah.
That whole concept of just saying yes and meeting new people, I mean, that's like the key to traveling for sure. And then the last question is, what is your biggest piece of advice that you can give to someone who's just starting out or wanting to travel or not sure really how to start or where to go?
I guess pick your destination. Maybe the right answer to that is, there's lots of destinations that make it easier for people to travel to. Also depends on your age, so it depends who's asking. But, if somebody was 18 and telling me where should I go and travel, I might say somewhere like Thailand and Southeast Asia, because it's really set up for backpackers and it may seem kind of daunting, but when you get there, things are very easy. You meet people easily. It's built for backpackers, really. It's easy to get on a bus and travel from one end of the country to the other. But I think that's what I would say is pick your destination.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. So I would just like to open it up for you to share how people can connect with you, how they can find you on Instagram or social or your business, Hang Cure. How can people connect with you?
Sure, yeah. So the business, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok. So it's hang.cure. I'm over on there. And then, I don't have too much of a sort of a personal brand at the moment. So, but I have got an Instagram, Chris Astill, and then an S on the end. So that's my Instagram page.
Awesome. I'll link to everything in the show notes as well. But thank you so much, Chris. I've enjoyed listening to your story so much, and I can't wait for our listeners to hear. And I'm excited to, like I said, hopefully meet up somewhere around the world. We'll pick somewhere cool and we'll bring all the kids together.
That would be nice. And if you ever come over this way to Europe, you're obviously more than welcome to stay with us.
We are actually planning next year. We're going to do, I think, Ireland and Scotland. So maybe we can make a little pit stop in England, or you guys can come up and see us in Scotland. That'd be fun.
Yeah. We want to go up to Scotland. I've been a few times, but Selena's never been. So we'd like to go there.
Let's do it. We'll see you next year then.
All right. Brilliant. Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Kelly. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Transform with Travel podcast. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode of inspiration, adventure, and exploration. If you felt inspired by this episode, please rate and review in whatever streaming app you're listening from. This allows us to spread the word even more and continue to serve up weekly doses of adventure. As always, we'd love if you could share the episode with someone in your life who you think will benefit from this conversation. Thanks so much for listening. This is your reminder to get out there and keep on exploring.